All right, I'm meteorologist Alyssa Andrews here with Steph Solis, our partners at Axios Boston. And Steph, you just wrote an article today talking about the change in CO2 emissions for Massachusetts over the last couple of decades. So we'd love to just have you walk us through your article and your findings from today.
Absolutely. So the Energy Information Administration recently released new data tracking CO2 emissions nationwide. And it looks like in the past 18 years, every state has seen their CO2 emissions drop, and Massachusetts saw one of the highest drops through 2023.
Okay, and what are these drops in CO2 emissions related to?
So CO2 emissions could come from a variety of places. Um, that could include coal burning, petroleum. In some cases, the way this information tracks energy emissions, it also includes heating your home through oil or how much gas you put in your car when you're commuting every day to work.
And how did Massachusetts rank or compare to other states just over the last 2 decades for how far we've come with trying to lower our carbon footprint?
Well, Massachusetts saw moderate levels of energy. Sorry, hold on, let me start again. So, Massachusetts saw its CO2 emissions drop 39% in 18 years. That's not the largest change seen in a state, but it now has one of the lowest CO2 emission levels in the country.
And are there any findings from this report that you found particularly interesting or that stand out to you?
Yeah, so it looks like a lot of this has to do with going coal-free in Massachusetts. As many know, our last coal burning plant shut down in 2017. We've also reduced how much we use as far as petroleum goes in home heating and other areas as buildings and transportation systems move toward electric. But we also have a big problem ahead because we are importing electricity, and the solar and wind economies are still very, very new and are not developed enough to enable us to generate our own energy. So we're going to have to keep importing electric energy over and over again in bigger amounts to offset the declining emissions or the declining consumption in coal and petroleum.
Which is interesting because, I've talked to a lot of experts in AI and energy usage, and that being on the increase as well. We're going to need even more energy, and if we're already importing electricity, what have you seen? Have you seen any conversations about how AI might also impact our increased energy usage?
Generally speaking, I have heard a lot of concerns about storage for being able to use AI, especially as more people become familiar with various GPTs or try to use it to streamline their businesses. We're going to need huge data centers, whether it's based here or in other states, and that's going to consume a lot more energy than we realize.
Okay. And so good thing, bottom line, we've cut these numbers down significantly over the last 2 decades. What's the next step? What should people look out for?
Well, the next step I would have said a year or two ago is look out for developments in offshore wind, but recent funding cuts from the Trump administration have put those projects into question. So it might just be a matter of having to see how legal battles over the funding play out and what this says for the future of wind power in Massachusetts.